If you ask someone the name of this bridge, most people would say it's London Bridge, and in fact they'd be wrong. London Bridge is the next one upstream. This one is called Tower Bridge. Back in 1967, the English sold London Bridge to the Americans, and they thought they were getting this one. What they got was the old one from upstream. That London Bridge now stands in Arizona. Maybe it's why the English and the Americans have this bit of a weird friendship. Perhaps maybe it's payback for the Boston Tea Party. Anyway, this one was built around 1892 and has stood here as an icon of London ever since. You can do tours inside the bridge. The good one that takes you down into the workings of how the bridge lifts, I found out that you needed to book about a month in advance, so we did the exhibition walk, which means you get to go up into the bridge and across the walkways. Up one arm of the walkway they have pictures of other famous bridges, including our Sydney Harbour Bridge, and down the other arm there is flashbacks to things in time that have happened while the bridge has stood here. And of course the view from the top of the bridge is just amazing looking up the river. While looking out the window at the traffic going by is one thing, you're only halfway there if you don't take the chance to drive across it yourself. After you walk across the bridge, the other part of the tour is to have a look at the old steam engines that used to lift the roadway. But in 1976 these were replaced with electric and oil hydraulic systems. A cruise on the Thames has to be a must-do. This area used to be the old Docklands, which sat vacant for many years after the huge shipping trade converted to the new container system in the late 60s and 70s, and moved further towards the coast. Now it has been redeveloped into commercial and residential housing, and has been given a new lease of life, but with some of the reminders of its past still around to be seen. If anyone tells you that there are no beaches in London, you can tell them that they're wrong. With around a 10-metre tide, at least once a day the river drops down and leaves beaches along the edge, although I don't know if anyone would actually get in the water. The boat stops at a place called Greenwich. It's a quiet little town with a couple of markets. Whenever you go somewhere new, you always have the same problem. Just up from the river is a large park. The locals seem to love sitting around soaking up the sun in, and apparently the cops use it as some kind of training ground. At the end of the park there's the National Maritime Museum, and then the Royal Navy College down to the river. At the top of the hill is the Royal Observatory. There are two reasons for almost killing yourself climbing to the top. One is for the view back towards London, and the second has to do with time itself. You may not have heard of Greenwich before, but you probably know it better as GMT, or Greenwich Mean Time. This is where the east and the west come together. So Perth's time zone is 8 hours plus from here. All the world time zones are measured from this point. And that's why these people are all lining up. They got one leg in the east and one in the west, so effectively they're in 2 time zones. Next to the Royal Naval College is the Cutty Sark. In its day, it was the fastest ship of its type. It used to bring tea from China back to England before it started its wool run from Australia. The next thing to cross off the London bucket list is the London Eye. Timing is everything. In the morning when we came down, there was a very long line. When we came back in the afternoon, we only had to wait maybe 10 minutes to get on. It's all about the view when on here. As we look around, we can see St. Paul's Cathedral, Admiral Nelson's monument in Trafalgar Square, Buckingham Palace, the Houses of Parliament, and Big Ben. How many of you thought the name of the clock tower was Big Ben? Well, it's not. Big Ben is the name of the big bell inside the tower. The name of the tower is actually named Elizabeth Tower. One of the ideas of how Big Ben got its name was from the rather large bloke that built the bell. From here you can see how they get 7 million people to live in the city. And from here you can see how much prime beachfront there is when the tide goes out. It takes about 30 minutes to go around, and there is no better way to get an overview of the London area. This is another place you've got to take a look at. Lots of crazy buskers here too. Unfortunately for this bloke, it was a bit of a windy day, which kind of gave away how he was doing it, but I'll leave that to you to work that out. Now here is something we don't see at home very much anymore. A telephone box, and 2 next to each other. These are everywhere. Not that I probably remember how to use one. Piccadilly Circus is loaded with lots of weird and strange little shops like this one. I can't believe they have a shop for M&Ms. There are multiple levels with everything ever made for the colourful little blokes. Piccadilly is also down the end of town where a lot of theatres are located. The buildings alone have a character all to themselves. We went to the theatre to see Mousetrap, which is the world's longest running show. We saw performance number 25,677, and you're told at the end to keep it a secret of who done it. Other places we saw was the Royal Albert Hall, with Albert sitting across the road in the park watching on. If you watch the show Mr. Selfridge, you might recognise this place. This is his house in the TV show. Westminster Abbey. There's been a few royal weddings here. From the What the Files, We have the landlocked pirate ship. Some weird building designs. The Shard, meant to look like a shard of glass. City Hall, nobody likes it. The walkie-talkie building. The Gherkin. I don't know what they're drinking when they come up with these ideas. The cheese grater. And this one, Charing Cross Station, meant to look like a train coming out of the building. The Harrods shop. We could only afford to look at it through the window as the bus went past. Now, I'm not into modern art, or any other type for that fact, but a couple I did like was this elephant thing. The horse's head must be for the Italian community. And my favourite, they put this up overnight so no one knew. The next morning it was just there. It's an alien that fell out of a spaceship and got his head stuck on the ground. Now that I thought was funny. So that's it for the inner city of London. In the next episode we will have a look at Stonehenge, visit the Queen at Windsor Castle, and take a walk around Oxford.